Hey, internet, how's it going? Okay, so this is an idea I have been kicking around for a very long time. I spend a lot of time focusing on the one leg regression thing, as I'm sure you are aware if you are on this channel. Why is because I'm specifically trying to develop a type of brace that cares about the ground force you're able to get and cares about the momentum that exists in your hips going into that ground force. So you're creating two vectors, one pushing on the ground and another with momentum continuing forward, going around the clearing front hip. The reason that's important is that's the only way to get your run up speed to translate into disc speed. The vast majority of amateur players, when you get them to actually start doing standstills, they're like, hey, my standstill goes almost as far as my run up. What's that about? It's because your brace isn't effective. Full stop. Walk up momentum down the tee pad can be useful for timing. It can be useful for getting mass moving in the right direction so it can help your aim be more consistent. But the way that most amateurs brace, horrible example, that's not going to make the disc go faster. It's not going to make your hips torque faster. So all the one leg regression stuff is about make the front leg a post, make the momentum matter because the momentum is going down and it's turned into torque because the planet is pushing on my hip. The planet's not going to move. So when I drop this hip, torque is created and I can use that torque to torque my spine, add to it with my shoulder, add to it with my elbow, add to it with my disc pivot, and then I can get even further than I can with my standard sloppy brace that's not helping me. So that's what that's about. Where that breaks down is there's no momentum. And this is not a realistic position for your front leg. We know that. It's a simulation of some things so that we can have a sandbox to play in that's simpler to access some of the swing plane mechanics and start to build a hit point and get our timing and our sequence to work correctly. It's a big jump from that to a full throw. So this drill is a first attempt at finding a way to bridge that gap intelligently, and it's still a little bit feel based. I want to find a simpler way to force people to do it right, but that kind of doesn't exist. Like even in this drill, I cannot force you to keep your knee still and not bend your knee, and you're probably going to do that to start with. That's inevitable. It's a very unintuitive way to move. So once you've developed some mastery of this drill and it looks something like that, then you can start adding some momentum back into it and trying to see if you can get that to work. So this is kind of phase two of the one leg regression, perhaps the one leg progression, if you wanted to use words how they were meant to be used. But you're going to start here and you're going to get to here. So the idea is now you have some momentum in your hips. So you're still trying to get toe down, heel forward, and you're still trying to have the ground force be what creates the rotation in the hips. So I'm not making my hips rotate by firing my rear glute, by turning my rear leg in. None of that is happening. That can be a part of power generation in full throw, but it's not what I want you to focus on this drill, and it's not the primary source of power, and I don't think we should conflate those two things. So the primary source of power is momentum and ground force from the front leg, stopping that momentum and turning it into rotation. So it's the planet pushing on us that causes the torque to happen. That's what scales with run up speed. That's how people get to 700 feet in distance competitions. There's no other way to do it. Is that true? That's true. Close enough. So the drill is we're going to intentionally try to build a connection between the left hip and the hit point. There's a lot of things in that path that are relevant. We don't need to micromanage them here. We can. If you want that level of coaching, hop on the Patreon. We can sort that out. but it's impossible for me to micromanage coaching to everyone on the internet at once with that. So there's a lot of feel in this. It's going to take a lot of mindfulness and filming to figure it out and make this drill work. But it's just like the one leg regression. It's a sandbox for you to play and see if you can connect ideas. So the idea we're trying to connect here is I want the power to come from my left hip because of the ground. And then I want to connect that to the disc hit point. So what I'm trying to do is that, and I'm going to start intentionally with failure. So failure is I'm shifting my weight directly that way, and I'm putting my foot directly that way. It looks super cool. Ready? Boom. I stopped. Success. In that we have failure. In that my hips didn't torque at all. So if I'm going that way and putting my foot that way and stopping, there is no torque. There is some force that makes my janitor keys move, but there's no hip torque. So if I continue shifting my weight directly that way and I inch my foot forward a little bit, then interesting things are going to start to happen. So the key here is I am not shifting my weight at my front foot. If I shift my weight at my front foot, I get back to the same situation. My hips are stopping, no torque is generated. So now I'm shifting my weight directly that way, putting my foot a little bit in front of that line. Watch what happens. Now all of a sudden, I have torque, and I'm getting into that position that we want. So I've achieved the goal. The planet is pushing on my front hip. I am also involved with the quad, but it's mostly the planet. Doesn't work without the planet. Try this in outer space. Results will be not as good. So I'm pushing on the ground. That's clearing my hip. That's causing the existing momentum in this hip to turn into torque. That's what we want. So just feel that. I'm shifting that way. I'm putting my foot a little bit towards the toe side and trying to stop. That one was fake. That's better. I have to intentionally make sure that I'm not adding force here. So you want to just feel it from the front leg. Boom. Once you can do that, so you're shifting your weight there and you're putting your foot in front and trying to stop, and you want that. So you're not thinking turn hips at all. Activate hips? No, stop it. Just stop. Shift weight that way, put foot there, stop. Boom. Then you get the hip rotation we're looking at. Once you can do that and it feels kind of okay, you will start to feel some soreness in your glute medius here because you're using that in a way that you haven't ever used it before if you haven't ever braced correctly. So once you feel that soreness, say, okay, I'm doing it right. Now I'm not going to destroy myself. I'm going to stop and rest that and let it chill out. You can also do exercises to intentionally strengthen that if you want to. So once you have that working and you can feel some soreness here because you're using that muscle to stop, boom, you're pushing your leg that way while you're in this dynamic motion. That's why the muscle gets sore. Once you have that, then try to connect this to this. So then you're doing exactly what you did in phase one of the one leg regression, where you're connecting this to the throw. This powers this. So dropping the hip makes the arm go. You're going to do exactly that same thing with the step. So when I do this, I can feel when it goes harder through the air right at the hip point. The last like 4 to 6 inches, I can feel it when it's right. So I can calibrate. I can just do a one leg and feel, okay, if I do that as hard as I can, if I like really grip the discs and don't throw it through the window over there, and really focus on not tensing up to power up, but loosening and thinking more speed and being really loose with dropping this hip. That's where speed comes from. Speed is loose. Speed is not tight. So that's about as fast as I can go before I get into bad form. Then I'm going to add stepping and stopping the hip. It'll take me a few to get it to where it feels remotely right. That was an okay one. So I can feel there's more air behind the disc when I get that hip into it better. And it'll be interesting for me to watch these back frame by frame and see what they look like. That wasn't a great one. I need to stop more. There we go. Timing was off on the hit. That was okay. I was pulling too straight. So that's the idea. It's entirely user perception based. Like, unless you have a tech disc, if you have a tech disc, then you're good to go. Like, if you're actually throwing on those, you're not going to be able to do reps as quickly. So I would suggest starting with the fanning. Please, when you notice the soreness, don't do a ton more. You can do more at lower speed, but don't do a bunch. Don't do high volume, high repetitions. Do high volume, low repetitions, or high volume, low power. Okay, so that's the idea. Play with it, report back. It's entirely about developing your feel and making sure that you have the ground causing the acceleration in this hip, which causes torque in this hip, and then building a connection to that. So it kind of tests not everything, but everything in terms of power generation from your hip getting to your arm. Okay, play with that, report back. Good luck, throw far.